Welcome to Calcasieu Parish Public Library's YouTube channel. My name is Stacy, and today we're going to teach you how to crochet your very own flower bookmark, just like this. You're going to need a few supplies today. First, you'll need to select your yarn. It can be any color you like, and it can be more than one. You'll need a crochet hook. Don't worry, I'll tell you how to match the size. You'll need darning needles to connect everything, and scissors to cut your yarn. To start, you'll need to decide what yarn you'd like and what size of hook goes with it. Select any yarn you like. On the back of the package, it will tell you what size of hook to get. You'll know you're picking the right size because the hook will show you the measurement in the middle. Today, we'll be using a 5mm size hook. The first thing that we're going to do is learning how to hold our yarn. Take your first yarn. This will be the stem of our flower. You're going to pull a healthy amount off, and we're going to start by holding the tail end. This is the part that hangs, that is not attached to the ball. You want to start by holding your hand in front of you. You can drape the yarn between your ring and pinky finger. You're then going to pull under and around your hand so that you've got this nice pinky ring on, and it wraps around the back of your hand. This is what's going to help you hold your tension during our piece. So I'll show you one more time. You're going to grab the tail end of your yarn, hold your hand out in front of you, place it between your pinky and ring finger, go down, up behind and over. And that's all there is to keeping the tension of your yarn. Now that we know how we want to hold our yarn, we need to attach it to the hook. To do this, we'll be making a slip knot. There are many ways to do this, but this one is my favorite. We're going to take the tail end of our yarn and put it in our non-dominant hand. It should look like this while you're looking at it. So you'll be holding the side that's attached to the ball in your dominant hand. Reach over your non-dominant hand to grab the longest part of the yarn and simply pull up. This is a very large knot, but don't worry, we can always trim it later. Once again, we're going to be tying our slip knot. Place the tail end of the yarn in your non-dominant hand, pull it a little bit towards you, place your fingers in the middle of this loop, then you'll grab the longest piece of the yarn and pull up to make your knot. Now that we've got our knot, we're ready to add the hook. Grab your crochet hook and we're going to place it in the middle of the knot. This is all you've got so far, but don't worry, we can tighten this knot by pulling on the longest end that is still attached to the ball, just like so. At this point, you want to make sure that your knot is not too tight. You should be able to grab either side of your yarn and wiggle it back and forth smoothly. If it pulls too much, you've gone too tight, and you should try to pull up a little bit with your hook so that it gets looser. If you're worried about your tail end being too long, we can trim it, but we do want to keep at least some length. You want it to be at least 3 to 4 inches long so that you have working space. Once you've decided that you're comfortable with your tail end, we're going to get our hand into position again. Place the yarn back where we've decided, between the pinky and ring finger, down and around the back of the hand. And now, to hold your tension, you take your index and your thumb and grab the knot at the base of the crochet hook. You'll see that there's some loose yarn here. To tighten that, you simply pull it back around on the side that's attached to the ball. Everything is nice and tight now, so we're ready to begin. Now we're ready to do our crocheting. Place the hook in front of this line of yarn with this little point facing you. You're then going to put it underneath the yarn and hook it so that that little notch grabs the yarn, twist it down, and slide it back through this hole. Now, if this knot is too tight, we can always loosen it, and that may make it difficult to make your first crochet. You'll know immediately if it's too tight. All you have to do to loosen it is pull up, and it will loosen. This is your first crochet. Congratulations! All we have to do now for the stem is make as many as we'd like. I would recommend 10 to get started as a first project, but if you're more comfortable, you're welcome to extend the stem as long as you'd like. Now we've got our stem. Look at that. All we need to do now is trim it and tie this part off. Whenever you're taking something off of your hook, you always want to pull it up to make this loop very big so that you don't lose your work. And now we're ready to cut it. So we will take our scissors, cut a decent tail, and we're just going to knot it off. You can place the tail through this loop you've made and tighten it up. And now you've got a closed off chain. Now that we've got our stem, we're ready to make our flower. Grab your next yarn. It can be the same color if you'd like. And we're going to make what's called a magic ring. You may hear daunting things about this online, but I promise it's fairly simple. All you're going to need to do is wrap this around your finger and pinch it so that it makes a little loop. Now, to work in this loop, you need to be able to hold your tension. So we're going to put the yarn the way that we have been and pinch it just like normal, but with our middle and pointer finger so that we can hold this tension a little bit stronger. So let's go back over how to get this into place. You need to make a ring. So wrap a ring around the end of your finger and pinch the connection point. Next, add your tension and pinch it with your middle and pointer finger. Now that you're in place, we're ready to crochet in the ring. All you're going to do is put your hook in the middle, just like normal. We're going to pull through, and you need to make your first crochet right here. That way, your yarn will stay in a ring shape, and you've officially started your first magic ring. Now that we've got our magic ring started, we need to work around it. This is your flower, so you can add as many petals as you'd like. All you're going to do is keep pinching that connection point, and when you go to add a petal, you'll go inside the ring, hook it just like normal, pull it back up. You're going to hook just like a single crochet, but you'll pull it through 2 loops this time instead of 1. You'll do the same thing all the way around this ring. So go through the middle, hook it back through, hook it again, and pull it through. Now that you've got as many flower petals as you like, we're going to complete this the same way that we did last time by pulling the hook up to make a big loop at the end. Now, I bet you're thinking there's a big hole in this flower. Not to worry, there's a way to close your magic ring. All you're going to do is grab the base and pull through. Now, sometimes the yarn doesn't want to give, and that's okay. You just have to work with it a little bit. And there, you have your little flower. All we need to do to close this off is cut this end, tie it, and then we'll connect everything. And now we're ready to connect. Now we're ready to connect everything. You'll take your darning needle, which is a blunt end needle. Please do not use anything sharp, as these are made for this kind of work. You're going to select either piece, whichever you want to connect first. We'll use our stem. To use a darning needle, you need to thread it For this, you can take the piece of yarn, push it up against the opening, and you should be able to grab it and pull it right through. You want this to be near the end of the yarn so that you don't have to pull the needle too hard when you're connecting it. This will make sense in just a second because we're going to grab our other piece and you're going to select 2 different spots to thread through. So for us, we'll take these 2 bottom stitches and thread right through here. You'll see the tail end come through, and then we're going to pull it up so that the stem is attached. It's best if you do this a few times so that your pieces are very sturdy. So you're looping around these crochets just to make sure that you've got a steady piece. And make sure you tie it tight so that they stay together. Now you've got everything connected and we just need to clean up the extra bits. It's completely up to you. Some people like to tie this off in a knot here and trim it, but you can also work it down the stem if you'd like it to look a little bit fuller. We'll do that so that you can see what it looks like. Thread the needle the same way. And then instead of going through the flower, we're going to go back through the stem. You're going to go in and out, weaving through your crochets all the way down. And you can take little breaks to pull this through so that you don't have too much on your needle at one time. You don't want to pull this too tight or you'll scrunch up your piece, but you do still want it to be fairly snug, so just keep an eye on it. I like the way this looks here, so this is where we'll end ours. To end it, all you're going to do is trim the end, and you can knot it off if you'd like. However, if you've threaded it through like this, it should hold anyway, so all you need to do is trim it close to the base, squish it around a little bit, and it will go right in. Next, we're going to weave these ends into the flower petals so that you can see how to do it if you'd like. Grab either end, thread it through the needle, and in the same way, we're just going to go in and out of our crochets so that everything is nice and tidy. All you need to do is a little tuck for these since our flowers are so petite. So we'll leave that one there, and we'll go ahead and weave this one before trimming both. Thread your needle again, last time. And work it in and out of those crochets one last time. Finally, we're ready to trim these last few pieces. Go ahead and cut them fairly close to the project. And just like before, we're going to work it around a little bit, roll it between our fingers, and the yarn should naturally go back into the piece. And there you have it. If you'd like, you can trim off this long tail that we've had before. In the same way, it's already knotted, so you don't need to work it in unless you just really want to. But that's all there is to it. A small floral bookmark